Good morning. It's December 3rd. Welcome to Math. We are going to be working on lesson 5-2. So yesterday you remember that we learned a new math vocabulary word, classify. So to classify means to decide how we're going to sort something. So we might have a group of objects or animals or insects, and we have to decide what attribute are we going to use to sort those things. And that is what defines classify, how we're going to sort. Once we decide that, we can then put them into today's word is category. So we can put them into a category. We can decide how we're going to sort them and then place them into the category they belong. So to give you an example, yesterday, do you remember Carlos was at the pet fair and he was asked to sort some animals. And so he decided to sort by animals that had 4 legs and animals that did not have 4 legs. So that's how he decided to classify them. With 4 legs, not with 4 legs. And the categories that he put them in was with 4 legs, not with 4 legs. So classifying is deciding how, and then we put them in the category once we've decided how we're going to sort them. So today Carlos is in the park and there's some animals. And he's thinking, how could I classify these animals? What attribute could I select to separate all these animals out into 2 different categories? So he decides that he wants to have one category is on the ground and the other category is not on the ground. So that's what he decides. They're either on the ground or not on the ground. So he's first is going to break them apart on the animals that are on the ground. So counting left to right, we're going to count the animals and mark them with an X that are on the ground. So we're going to start with this little earthworm, green worm. So we're going to say 1, 2, 3. Come up here and write your number before you forget it. There are 3 animals that are on the ground. Now we're going to be looking at what is not on the ground. So I suggest we start up in the sky with the butterfly, counting left to right. Let's see how many things are not on the ground. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to come over here and write my number before I forget it. And you'll remember from our last unit, we compared numbers. So there are 3 animals on the ground, 5 not on the ground. Which group is greater? Right, the group that's not on the ground, because 5 is greater than 3. All right, we're going to flip our page over, and you'll notice Carlos is looking at a group of bugs, and he's deciding if the bugs have 6 legs or do not have 6 legs. So he's decided that he will classify them by the number of legs they have. So he's got 2 categories. He's got one with bugs with 6 legs and ones that do not have 6 legs. So he goes over here and he counts really quickly. We're going to move across and we're going to say 1 and mark it, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to come down here to the ant and say 6, and he writes the number 6. Then he goes over to the ant, the insects that do not have 6 legs, and so he counts those. 1, make a tally mark, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And he comes over here and writes the 7 very quickly. So he had 6 that had 6 legs, 7 that did not have 6 legs. All right, we're going down to number 1. We're going to be looking at ducks. And some of the ducks are in the water and some are not. So we have a picture of a pond here and a picture of a pond with an X over it. So this represents the category of birds in the pond and the ones not in the pond. So as we count them, we're going to mark them. So let's start with the birds that are in the water. We're going to put an X on them as we count them and write the tally mark. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Come over here and we're going to write number 6. We're going to trace their 6. All right, now we're going to go back and we're going to count and X out the birds that are not in the water. So let's start with the sky and go across to the ground. 1, tally mark. 2, tally mark. 3, 4, make a tally mark. 5. All right, so we had 6 ducks that were in the water and 5 that were not. Did we have more ducks in the water or not in the water? In the water. All right. Now you're going to move to 2. And again, we're looking at insects. So this time we're looking for insects that have 4 legs on each side. So what do we call that? Do you remember? If they have 8 legs total, it's a spider. So we're going to count the ones that have 8 legs and the ones that do not. So we're counting all the spiders essentially. And we're going to make a tally mark. So we're starting over here at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're going to come right over here to the picture of the spider and write number 8. All right, now we have a category where the spider is X'd out. So those are the ones that do not have 8 legs. So we're going to start over here and count 1, 2, 3. And we're going to write 3 right there. All right, so we had 8 that had 8 legs, 3 that do not have 8 legs. Now we're going to move down. And again, we have some birds. We have some that are in the tree and some that are not on the tree. So we see a tree right here and a tree that's X'd out. So this is for our group that's in the tree, and this is for our group that's not in the tree. And again, we're going to be making tally marks. So we're going to start with the group in the tree. So work across from left to right, and let's start with the yellow bird and count the birds in the tree. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to come right over here and write number 4 right underneath that one that has the tree in it. All right, now we're going to go to the category that has the tree marked out. These are the birds that are not in the tree. And we're going to count starting at the top of our page down and make a tally mark for every bird that's not in the tree. So we're going to say 1, 2, 3, and we're going to come over and write number 3 very quickly. So we had 4 birds that were in the tree, 3 that are not. All right, you're going to flip over and you're going to see an ant hill. We have red ants and black ants. So we're going to decide how we want to categorize them. So we're going to decide that we're going to put them in a category red ant, not red ant. So let's count all the red ants first. You see the little red ant there. We're going to make a tally mark and put our number over here under our red ant. So let's start at the top of the ant hill. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to write the number 7. All right, now we're going to go back and count the ones that were not red. And we're going to start again with the left and work across as we exit out and make a tally mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're going to write our number. All right, we had 7 ants that were red and 7 that were not. Do we have more red ants or not red ants? They're equal, right? They're equal, 7 and 7. All right, now we're moving down to number 5. On number 5, we're going to count the looks like bumblebees that are on flowers and those that are not on flowers. So we're deciding how to classify them, and we're thinking that the way we're going to classify them is, what if I count the ones that are on the flowers and ones that are not on the flower? So we've got our 2 categories here. We have a category of flower, no flower. On flower, not on flower. All right, so we're going to count the ones that are on the flowers first. This is pretty easy. 1 and a tally mark, 2. And we're going to come over here and write number 2. We had 2 bees that were on a flower. All right, the ones that are not on a flower, we're going to work left to right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and write the number 6. So we had 2 bees that were on flowers, 6 that were not. So these are our 2 categories right here. On flowers, not on flowers. All right, now we're going to go down to the bottom. And you have to do some higher thinking. I want you to look at that group. You have to decide, how did we decide to classify them, and what are the 2 categories? Now look at them. How do you think they're grouped? Because they've already been sorted. So if we look on the left, what do we see? We see all white mice. And on the right, we see not white mice, right? So we decided to classify by if they're white or not white. And we made 2 categories. These is where we'll put the white mice, and this is where we'll put the not white mice. So this is what I'm going to have you do this time. I'm going to have you write counters right above where you're going to be writing the numbers to represent the mice. So we're going to start with the white mice. So we're going to count and put 1 counter right on this line right here. 1, I put a little counter right there. 2, another counter. 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to write the number 5 right there. Do you see that? And I could write the word white, W-H-I-T-E, if I wanted to, right? I have 5 white. All right, let's do the ones that are not white and put counters on that side. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to write the number 4. And at the top, I could write white again, and this time I could put an X over that word to represent those are not white. So I had 5 white and 4 that were not white. Which did I have more of? Right, I had more white. All right, for homework this afternoon, later today, I want you to revisit this. This time you'll be using counters and a 10 frame instead of the tally marks to do exactly what we did today. So I want you to revisit it and see if it makes a little bit more sense after you do it the second time. Classify, category. To classify is to think about how we're going to sort, what attribute we're going to use, and then we build our 2 categories once we decide how we're going to classify. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow for math.